So when we're talking about working the ideal phase and the what-if phase and the formulation phase, first of all, we got to realize the biggest problem with that is having too many options, right? So if I just ask you right now, okay, work with a partner and think of all 6 different options that we've been discussing before, right? You're going to have to probably go slow. You're probably going to have to tell your partner a bunch of times, I'll do that again because I messed up, because there's too many things to choose from, too many new things that you're trying to react with, right? And what we're really talking about is taking a skill that is first a mental skill and making it a reactionary skill, like driving a car or riding a bicycle, all right? It doesn't matter how much theory you spent on that, you're still going to crash if you haven't practiced actually doing it, right? Same thing with throwing a ball, something simple like that. There's a point where it switches from you thinking about it to your body just doing it, right? Okay. So the key to that is almost always, the key to being effective with actually getting, learning to change your reaction and benefiting from the what-if phase training and the formulation phase training, the key to that is knowing how to limit it to a small amount of options so that way you get a quick result, right? So we have to have an incremental approach, and that's what a lot of people do wrong. A lot of people think that formulation phase means you're winging it. You're just making stuff up. No, that's just, reactive. Training in the what-if phase and training in the formulation phase are very specific things, and you're only going to get results if you have a very specific outline of what you're going to try to do, right? So let's go back into attacking mace. We're going to start with attacking mace. That's going to be our ideal technique, right? So we don't have to do the whole thing at all because we're never going to get that far, right? Because the things are going to go wrong in the first part, just like we talked about up until this point, right? So you're stepping back, doing your inward block, check, make sure it's a good check, and then punch them right in the ribs. And then you can grab and do the roundhouse kick. You're never even going to probably get to the roundhouse kick, but occasionally you might have an opportunity. So you might as well do it up to that point. So again, block, check, punch, grab, kick. All right? And of course, like most of you guys should already know, when you're grabbing, you keep your elbow low. This is really like a vertical outward block right here. And then you turn your wrist around because that's how you're able to do it without looking. That's how you're able to increase. What do you call that? When you're less likely to make a mistake, you have a what?
Margin for error.
A margin for error, right? That's a big thing that we have in Kenpo. We learned that pinpointing is not good. In other words, if you make a small mistake and then your move doesn't work anymore, then it's not a good move, right? All right, so anyhow, back to attacking mace. So here's our ideal. The block, check, and punch. This is working up to that point. Again, block, check, punch. All right? Now, first of all, we want to start doing more and more realistic attacks, right? Anthony, let me have you for a moment. So the first thing to get out of our system is the old Kenpo disease. It's a disease because it's a skill, and then we accidentally put the skill in the wrong place. In other words, I want to do a step-through punch one, trying to do a street attack, but people in the street don't step like that. They don't have a toe-heel relation in a street situation, almost never, all right? So and then we often exaggerate it, right? Because we were going to go and hit a toe-heel relation, we got hit, and then we're going to totally sideways, and now we're going to stand here for a moment like this, which is completely unrealistic, all right? If that's your opponent, you don't even need Kenpo. So what we got to do is, and it's not so much about the legs, the question comes up in deflecting hammer a lot, because you will have a habit as a Kenpo person to not want to be out of balance, which is again different than what most people in the street will think of. So if you, let's do just deflecting hammer, just to make a point, because this turns me even further, right? I'm way over here kind of, here I am going to be more sideways, right? I have no choice, but that's my legs and hips, not my shoulders. So in a street situation, it's very likely it's going to look more like this, right? I don't care. I don't even realize. I didn't even register that my legs are out of balance, right? Most people have no clue what their legs are doing in a street situation, right? They're thinking upper body and they're thinking hitting, right? They're thinking, wow, boom. They could be falling while they're hitting you. You might have moved my leg over there. You might have turned my hips a little bit, but you didn't affect my shoulders, right? That's how we got to start thinking every time we do attacks on each other. So attacking mace is not against this, right? Attacking mace is against this, with a guy thinking of throwing a second punch. It's really, really important to get used to, okay? And as you know, but the first thing we did when you were white belts is try to make you not do that, right? That's really the problem. And then we don't correct it. Then we don't even notice it sometimes because we're so conditioned into a toe-heel relation that we're attacking each other in a neutral ball stance, thinking that that's going to be, what we're going to encounter in a street situation, and it's not usually the case, right? So again, one, check. So that means automatically, just me mentioning this, if you're visualizing it, you should be thinking of a very active check right here. And you don't even know whether, Mr. Slade, let me have you for a moment, throw a left punch. Right? You don't even know if that check is actually going to be on the outside of this arm, or if you already retracted this arm and he's already punching with the other one, and the check is right here, right? And I can still do my next move. It might be slightly altered, but you are not guaranteed that you're still on the same arm. But you do have a check, right? So it doesn't matter if he retracts or not, right? Attacking mace, all right, just these three moves: block, check, punch. Block, check, punch. Block, check, punch. All right? Your check should involve torquing your forearm a little bit. That's a much faster and more explosive check. So don't just open the hand. You're in an inward block position. Let me have you one more time. So the right punch this time. I'm here, and I'm right from the block. I'm going to turn my arm a little bit because it gives me some extension on my arm. Can you see that? Right, so if I'm here, if I left my elbow right where it's at, first of all, I would have to slide my elbow down. That's not good. It makes me weaker. He's already hitting me in the face by then. All I got to do is corkscrew this right into his arm. I'm here, now I'm here. I'm here, and here. All right, from this, turn more towards me. Please turn more towards me with the other arm. There you go. So I want to be able to, exert some pressure on here. And sometimes I might even grab. All right. So again, one, and then really think of turning this arm. It doesn't turn much, but your elbow comes up. Your elbow comes up, and your palm is the most prominent part of your arm right here. Like you're palming somebody in the upper arm, right? Except you never left contact. You hit his arm with your forearm. Now you're pushing against his arm, but with some rotation of your forearm. And then you're punching him in the ribs right below it, right? Do it again, ready? Move. And again, move. So that's our ideal technique right now. In other words, that's what we wanted to start with. Or that's what we thought we were going to be doing. So that's why I kind of gave this seminar the label, all I really wanted was attacking mace. Right? That's what you thought you were going to be doing, and things are going wrong while you're trying to do it, right? So the first what if is exactly the same what we worked earlier, and that was the idea that he is retracting his punch so quickly that that target is no longer available. Alright, so Mr. Hoskins, if you're blocking this right here, alright, you're going to go block, but this arm comes right back. So now, what should you do? What do you think it might be a smart thing to do? Yeah, exactly. Pin my arm, right? So it's almost like automatic. And now, what's a better target than my ribs? Thank you. Right, so what do you do? A palm strike. Alright, so that's really, it's glancing like salute. This is glancing salute. People think glancing salute, okay, I got to do this, that, and this. But the thing is, why are we doing the second move in glancing salute? Well, because do glancing salute the first move. Because you're getting this. The guy's bending his arm, right? You try to break his arm. You either succeeded, in which case you'll probably bend it, right? Or at least, induce a lot of pain, right? That's a natural reaction. If you ever overextended your elbow, right, you go, oh, right? You don't go, ow, you go, ow, right? It's normal, right? So that's what's going on. You pop my elbow, or you're trying to, and I'm resisting, so I'm going to pull my arm in. And because, right, as I'm helping you do a pinning check, and I'm helping you do a palm to me, right? So it's, again, the same principles or concepts as always. Path of least resistance, right? But we have to recognize or notice our opponent's defensive efforts, right? You have to, every time you do a move, when there's when the opponent has a chance to react to that or change the scenario a little bit, we got to obviously perceive that. So you have to be careful with just having a pre-designed rhythm of physical moves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, right? Because you're not, when are the parts where you're looking? When are the parts where you're thinking about how you're going to have to adjust? Where are the parts where you're noticing that the opponent is doing something different, right? So that changes the rhythm a little bit. So let's do it. So attacking mace, 1, he is retracting right away. So you're going to go with that and do a pinning check. You never even had a chance to do your punch yet anyhow. You are going to go block, check, punch. So now we're going to go block, pinning check, palm. That's not that big of a change, right? So can you see how glancing salute is also, if you don't count the first move of glancing salute is a what-if solution to attacking mace, right? Sure. And I wrote a long time ago that a move is only as reliable as it has what-if answers attached to it. In other words, if you don't know what to do when things change, then you wouldn't want to use that move. You can't rely on it because you know it's probably not going to happen. Right? That's naive, thinking, okay, as long as you attack, there's one way I can make the technique work, but if he changes, I got nothing. That wouldn't be good, right? So if you're ready for his change, then you're fine. Then then you can continue. Right? In other words, if you have the likely what-if problem already answered in your mind and you're already conditioned to deal with that, no big deal now, right? So let's do it. So that's our first what if. We thought we were going to do attacking mace. We're stepping back. He's retracting really quick. So do a pinning check, and that palm goes right to the jaw. Right? A palm is a better fitting weapon than is a punch to the jaw. Right? Less likely you miss, and it's actually again a better margin for error. Right? All right. Try it a couple of times. Just that one what if. Let's go. Yes, sir. So when you're by yourself, you can already do a lot in order to get yourself into the formulation phase. You can't do it completely because you don't have a partner in front of you that's going to, trick you or give you the challenge of changing what they're doing, right? Keeping you guessing. It's a little bit like you're trying to play chess with yourself if you're trying to do the formulation phase with yourself. You can't totally do it because you're not being surprised, right? But nevertheless, you can take a lot of steps in this direction. For right now, the first step is to do okay, I know exactly what I would do if he changed, which is still the what-if situation, right? So the what-if phase is a lot of times, you can look at it as being similar to just another ideal phase. When you're doing the what-if training phase right now, do it again. This is a what-if to attacking mace. All right, he retracted his arm right away, right? What if he retracts right away? That's where the name comes from, what-if. Oh my goodness, I'm going to check his arm with a pinning check and palm him right in the jaw. Now I'm in glancing salute. Do it again, ready? Sure. Go. But it's like a new ideal phase in as much that you're not forced to make a decision in the middle of this. You knew before you started how you're going to finish, right? So there's no mental speed being developed yet. It's the what-if phase is a preparation to mental speed, in as much as it is a preparation for learning to make a decision. But you're not making the decision yet. Not in the middle of your technique, you're not, right? Right? So let's do the original again. Attacking mace, 1, 2, 3. And again, 1, 2, 3. Now the first what if. 1, he retracts, pin his arm, and go into glancing salute. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. Not that different. You're still doing a check. The good news is you don't even have to change the sequence of your motion, right? You're still going left block, left check, right hit. It's just the pin and the check is a little different, and the hit is a little different, the strike is different, but it's still the same sequence. It's even the same body motion. Not a big deal, right? So, do it one more time. The what if, going into glancing salute. Ready? Go. Good. Now, we could, of course, talk about a whole lot more what-ifs right now, like I did earlier, right? But the reason why I don't want to do that right now is because we got to get to conditioning to actually make this a reaction. In other words, we got to enter the formulation phase. And formulation phase means that you have to make a mental choice. The only way to develop mental speed is by having somebody throw these strikes at us arbitrarily. In other words, they might do the one, they might do the other. I don't know which one they're going to do. I'm going to keep my eyes wide open and then decide in the middle of my technique which one of those I'm going to finish with, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the formulation phase. So the formulation phase does not happen until we have at least two choices that we worked on. We have to have the ideal phase, the original technique that we wanted, or that we started with, and we have to have at least one what if. Now we have enough to enter the formulation phase. And a lot of times that's the perfect number. Just work on two choices. So what we're going to do next is we want to see if we can get some action happening right here and then some intensity happening here by just doing those two things. So Mr. Salinas, you're actually going to do it on me, right? So I'm either, come up right there, I'm going to come in with the original attacking mace attack, so 1, 2, and now I'm going to do the other one, and I'm going to come back. So, palm, right? So first we're going to work it as ideal and what if. In other words, first get mechanically good with it. So that's the first thing, right? So we're not going to go into the formulation phase immediately. We're going to do it after a few minutes. So again, so I'm going to keep intentionally alternate between those two so you can predict, you will know what happens before it happens. So attacking mace, 1, 2, 3. I want to have a better check there. Yes. So you got to have impulse, 1, 1, 2, 3. Yes. Left, left, right. That's what your brain has to do. Left, left, right, because it's block, check, punch. All right, so left, left, right. There you go. Don't push it down. Push it across. Huh? Ah, you're thinking of the other one. No, clear your mind. Clear your mind.
Yeah, you do it.
So 1, 2. There you go. All right. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to give you the other one where I retract. Block, and now the check changes. There you go, and now palm. Bam. All right? So the first thing you got to look for, you know it's going to be a challenge when we get to the formulation phase, is, okay, how will the check happen? Right? Yes. But again, so now we got 1, and pinning check. Oh, excuse me, I didn't retract it now. Oh, again. 1, I'm retracting, you're pinning, and palm. Bam. Perfect, perfect. Right? So only two choices. So let's do that first, and before we enter the formulation phase with that, first just make sure mechanically you have both of these versions without a problem, but with a partner.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Go, get a partner and start working on it.
So now I'll switch it up between the two. I mean, you have to get it down. I'll walk on my arms. Yes. I mean, if someone shows you something that's bigger than me, then that one. Check. Resistance against them. I feel like you walk the other way.
Hopefully here we can see it.
Switch it up.
All right, now look up. So here is why so many Kenpo schools don't do good formulation phase training, because it gets difficult very quick. And it gets difficult because it gets complicated very quick. So let me make my point. Let me have there. Because now the problem is that we have to, in order to enter the formulation phase, you will no longer know which one of these options I'm giving you, right? So start, 1, 2, 3, good. Versus. I did pretty good with that. Good, all right? So, not bad. Yeah, give me a hand. That was very well done. But the thing is, I actually gave you 2 new challenges. And that was your pin. All right? The check is the first thing that is likely to be the first error you make, right? So especially with some of you guys who are just learning these moves, if somebody, let's say somebody is a blue belt or a green belt, that would be too much to ask. We're going up way too fast right here, and you're going to feel bad about it, and you won't get the confidence that you're going to get good with this, right? So don't do the rear hand strike. All I'm going to have you do is the block and the check. Uh-huh. Yeah. Good. Do you think that's achievable?
Yes, sir.
Right? That's the first step. The first mental choice I need to make. That's the first thing, obviously, I got to work. Right? So I bet you there's going to be some people maybe watching this video going, oh, no wonder I was always confused working the formulation phase, and I always felt overwhelmed. The biggest problem with what if and formulation is that you're going to immediately feel overwhelmed because of the choices. And we kept it as simple as block, check, punch versus block, pinning, check, palm. It was something that basic. Your mind goes still, when it's never done that before, it goes on overload. It's like, right? I'm trying to give the mental direction to my left hand, and my right hand is doing, and that kind of stuff. Right? Totally normal. So let's work this then as our first entry into the formulation phase. We're going to only train our front hand to respond accordingly. So now it's going to be a surprise to you. So you're not going to alternate between the two predictably anymore. I will sometimes throw the punch and keep it extended, and he checks and push it away, right? I will sometimes retract it right away, so you have the pinning check. And now I'm purposely going to do one of them several times in a row, right? So he does not know what to expect. There you go. Is it achievable?
Sure.
I mean, you're already doing good for the next part. So I would imagine this was not that hard for you right now. Right? But can you see the importance of this?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Does this develop mental speed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, because it's forcing you to make a decision in the middle of your technique. You know how you're starting. You don't know how you're going to finish. Right? That's how you know you're in the formulation phase. Yeah, I know where I'm going to start, but that doesn't know which one I'm going to finish with. Right? And the number of choices we have right now, which is very challenging right now, you're going to find out when you work with a partner. This is not going to be that easy. How many choices we got? 2. Right? So when you enter the formulation phase, if you can't do it with 2 choices, then don't try to go on to more. Right? Yeah. So, and it's easy to sometimes think of a move or part of the technique as one choice, but actually checking and striking, right, there's 2 things that you're doing, right? So you actually have to make 2 choices here. Just by the time, right? So in other words, if you're just blocking and then trying to figure out whether or not you should keep that check there and punch under, versus if you're blocking and you turn it into a pinning check and palming, you're making 2 choices there. You have to make 2 adjustments already. So that's not the best way to start. That is going to cause overwhelm. And if you have a bunch of students, let's say you have a bunch of green belts or so you're trying to do that with, they're not going to gain confidence through that process then. Right? So the point is to gain confidence without spontaneity. Right? So that's the drill now. All you're going to do is block and check according to what your partner is surprising you with, whether or not they are extending the arm, maintaining it extended, right, and probably with some resistance towards you, or whether or not they're just retracting it. Get good with that.
Yes,
Go.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Huh? Exactly. So it's at random. So you have to surprise them. So it's no longer the one, the other, the one, the other. Your partner cannot predict. They cannot know which one of the 2 you're giving them.
Yes, sir.
Question. Does this change the rhythm of your motion?
Yes,
Absolutely does, right? This is why when you're just going ideal phase, you are setting yourself up for failure. You're not training to adjust. The formulation phase teaches you not just when to go fast, but when to go slow. Right? Did you use your front hand to give you information? Absolutely, right? So if you watch Magda doing, you move back a tiny bit, she's doing really well with this, right? See right here, right? So she has to go, and her front hand is telling her a lot, or at least she's like having this internal dialogue with her front arm, Right? What exactly is this guy doing? Oh, he's pinning. All right. And for a moment, he might move away from you, and then you pin it, right afterwards. Not a big deal at all. In other words, the check can move from positional check to applied check. Positional check meaning you're not yet touching. Right? Right here. So if you're thinking of just doing a good applied check, an actual, bracing angle check right here, and this happens for a moment, it's a positional check, and then it becomes a pinning check. Right? That is to be expected. That is normal. Right? And that's what you're going to, so in other words, what you're learning right now is a much more realistic attitude towards checking. Most people look at people's checks when they're doing attacking mace. That check is not going to work most of the time. They have a passive position right there. They're not actually thinking of being in tune with the guy's arm. So if you watch her again, right? You can really see, you can look at her eyes, you can look at her whole body, you can see how she's like adjusting. Her arm is like not just a check, it is actually a perceptive tool, right? It's giving you information. You're feeling my arm, right? Because don't forget, ultimately, you might have to do this and look somewhere else, right? There could be another opponent, but this is actually telling you what's going on. And if you feel this, you turn into the other check, and if you feel this, you turn into the first check again, right? So there is feedback. There's a feedback process when you're doing this. In other words, you're trying something and you're noticing how well it's working or how you might have to adjust it, right? So do it a little bit more. Would you agree that just doing this part takes a while to get good with?
Yes, sir.
Right? You haven't mastered it yet, right?
Oh, no,
I mean, we only had like 5 minutes with it, but the point is, this is something you got to put some time into, right? So keep going.
Yes, sir.
You still
I know we were good.
What's the most braced angle of the country?
That's it. That's it.
There, that's it. There's a very little one, but you don't have to really worry about that. All that like happening almost automatically. What, higher up?
That's it. I gotta use one.
We'll talk about that later. Right now you don't need it. It's gonna confuse you.
That's it. That's it. There we go. All right, now I'll do it.
Okay, so now, here's what we're going to do.
Yes, sir.
We want to go on a little further than just this part, right? But it does take a little bit of mental energy. We're not, I'm assuming that you don't feel 100% confident doing this and immediately choosing either a punch to the ribs or a palm to the jaw, right? So what we're going to simply do in order to make this achievable, and in order to help the student become confident with this, we're going to just have a little pause. So come back over here.
Yes, sir.
So right after the check, you pause. So we're going to do exactly what we did a moment ago, but we're going to just bring it one increment higher so it's achievable and it develops confidence in our students. So she's going to go do 1 and 2, and then you punch. Bam. So there's a purpose, intentional pause right there. So because again, the main problem is going to be ready, fire, aim. Right? Isn't that the problem?
Yes, sir.
Moving before we know what we should be doing, hoping to get lucky. That's always a problem, right? So just watch it a couple of times. This is the first time I'm having you do this specific drill, right? But watch how it's going to go. Yeah. Good. Looks pretty achievable to me. You didn't make a single mistake, right? Now, it wasn't quite street speed yet, but pretty darn close. The only difference from complete street speed was you had a little pause behind after the check. In reality, you won't have that much time. But that's why we're going to do the drill, because you're going to now erase that little mental gap little by little. Right? And would you agree that, I'll do it again. Would you agree that it's already easier to choose the right tool there?
Yes.
Yeah, right? So already it's just, again, familiarity, this or that, this or that. But again, your brain, your mind needs an opportunity to look at that while it's not looking at other stuff also. Right? We have to move up in proper gradients, and the biggest problem in Kenpo is that people go from very basic to super complicated with nothing in between. Those incremental steps in between are the key to making students good, to making ourselves good. So go back to it and do exactly that. So the block check should be pretty quick, and then pause for a moment and choose the right follow-up strike afterwards. Let's go. Yeah. All right, that's great. Now, this being a seminar, I'm going to move on faster than what we usually should. If we're trying to get this done in class, for example, right? So let's say you have a class that meets twice a week, 3 times a week, something like that, right? And we're just really trying to get good with this. We should be doing this at least 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 classes in a row. Just that, right? Right now, I gave you like between 5 and 10 minutes to try to get this done, right? But that's just for us to learn what we need to be doing more of, right? Anthony, have you?
Yes, sir.
So now we have a different what if. A little early to go to another what if, but let's keep in mind. So far we've had our ideal technique, attacking mace, just the first 3 moves, with one what if. The what if being that the guy punches and retracts his arm. Now I'm going to introduce basically the same problem, but a little later. Meaning that he thought he was good to go for the punch, and my arm is retracting at that point. So we got 1, look like you're ready for the punch, and as you're punching, I'm dropping my arm then. Very simple. We could almost consider this the same what if. The only thing we're changing here is the timing a little bit. Right? Move back this way a little bit. Let's do it again. So 1, and as he punches, that's when my arm comes down. And so you're punching his arm or nothing, right? So, your arm punch is all smothered, right? And we worked this earlier already, and the solution did that to me. So I thought I was going to do attacking mace, and I'm already sending my punch out. So you have to hesitate slightly before you retract, right? That make me think I can punch underneath your arm, and then as I punch, that doesn't work. And so we're going to go into circling the horizon at that point. So circling the horizon, or desperate falcons, doesn't matter which technique you're taking this out of, is a what-if solution to attacking mace. That's not all it is. It's a what-if solution for many techniques, right? All techniques have a relationship with each other. But obviously, when we have this particular what if, circling the horizon gives us an excellent solution. So he punches, right? And I thought I was going to check and punch right underneath. He's dropping his arm right at that moment. So I'm going to go bam to the back knuckle. And then here, because I'm taller than him, I'm going to use the desperate falcon. Come a little more from this angle. I'm going to go more the desperate falcon route, meaning that after this back knuckle right here, I'm going to elbow him right in the head because his arm is down here. It might come up, but I'm inside of his elbow or inside of his forearm already. All right, so if I'm here, you can retract your arm, bam. If I'm over his arm with this back knuckle, I'm going to elbow because he's going to help me with that. He's going to probably come up, right? If he reacts right away or faster to the back knuckle, if I'm here, 1, and bam, comes up, now I'm encircling the horizon, right? Well, that's also good when sometimes you will go one what if and you realize, oh, I never thought that those 2 techniques are kind of the same. Right? But both of these techniques, doesn't matter if it's desperate falcons or circling the horizon, both take this alternate route to his face. Doesn't matter if it's an outward back knuckle, like more on a horizontal plane, or a thrusting back knuckle. I talked about that before, right? But the point is right here, I'm either going to stay over his arm, path of least resistance, or if he reacts a little sooner to this, then under his arm. Different path of least resistance. One of those doors opens, one of those doors closes, right? Yes. Okay. And that's how you're going to decide how to react in a street situation. And this is also why a lot of people say, oh, Kenpo techniques don't work. Doing techniques doesn't work because they're thinking pre-designed technique without adjusting to the opponent. They're thinking, I see one punch, and I already decided my next 4 or 5 moves. Yeah, that does not work because you're missing perceptual speed in between. You're missing that you need feedback. You go, oh, darn it, and that works. And okay, now that works. So the rhythm is absolutely going to change now. But this gives you realistic rhythm. Well, working this by yourself in an ideal phase does not give you realistic rhythm. Not past the first move, at least. So let's do this now. So all you're going to do, we got to go back to what if. Otherwise, if we try this formulation phase right away, we're going to hurt each other. Right? So now, And we want to bring it back to those two options again. So if I go, let's add this as a third option, your mind is going to go into overload again. You're going to get overwhelmed, right? So the only choices that you're giving me right now is not retracting at all, so I can do the original attacking mace, or retracting right when you see me start punching. All right, so 1, 2, and oh, right there, bam. And we're just going to take it just to the back knuckle. All right, because once you're there, then you should be able to go on, but you're not working on the rest of it. You're working on making the right mental choice. All right, so we're back to the what if phase, because this has to be pre-planned. So you give me the one, or you just let me do the punch, give me the other, or you block it and you drop, and I gotta go into this back knuckle. And then give me the one again, I'm going 1, 2, bam, all right? Then the other one, 1, 2, oh, darn, bam, all right, okay? So, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So let's work that what if. Go.
Yes, sir.
So, well, it's becoming pretty obvious here, I think, right? So if you're giving me from here and you're retracting the arm and I'm doing this, well, this is my first goal right here, to hit him with my back knuckle or uppercut, right? Keep your distance a little bit more to me, so that way it'll be a little bit more obvious of what's going on here. So here, so my foot comes at the end of that. Why do I need the cat stance? Or why does my right foot have to come forward?
Put you in position for your next strike.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, I'm going to be kind of out of position for anything after that. So let's do the same thing again. If I'm here and here, but let's go here. I guess I could make that work, but you can also counter me very easily, right? So I'm going, okay, he's already blocking this. He's probably thinking of punching me with that other arm, and I'm going to stay right here. I can back knuckle you, but now it's just arm against arm. Who will punch me? I'd rather be over here. Yes, right? So circling the horizon, or this shows us, working this as a what if, shows us the value of circling the horizon. Sometimes you need a new path. You basically, you know, when people do this like this, and you do a right straight punch, I'm going here, I go like, well, when would I use this? Right? Now do you have a good reason for using it?
Yes, sir.
Right? So by exploring how one technique is a what if answer to some other technique, you truly understand its value. Alright? So that explains the second, well, one of the other statements I made back in, in the early 90s when I printed the Art of Spontaneity, and that is, a move is only as valuable as it answers a what if problem. Alright, so we have two statements I made. One is a move is only as reliable as it has what if answers attached to it. In other words, can I rely on attacking mace? Well, I can rely on it more now, because if you punch and keep your arm extended, that works. If you punch and immediately retract your arm, that's a what if, still works. If you punch and retract your arm a little later, that still works. I have enough what if answers attached to this that the move becomes more trustworthy, more reliable, more useful for me, right? I'm more ready to use it now because I know what to do when things go wrong, right? But viewed from the other side, all these moves, the individual moves, glancing salute in this case, and circling the horizon, have just become more valuable because they're solving very specific problems. Right? Now, glancing salute is not because I'm being pushed with a cross push, and circling the horizon is not because I'm being, because of the straight punch coming at me, right? It is because of what's happening while I'm doing something else. I was trying to do this, okay, so now I have, I'm glad I know circling the horizon. Or if it's a little earlier that you do it right away with the retraction, right? So now I'm glad I know glancing salute, right? So think of those two statements. Number one, a move is only as reliable or trustworthy, or you're only going to have confidence in a move that has what if answers attached to it. It's all the same statement, basically, right? Well, the second part is a move is only valuable to you if it actually solves some problem. So a move is only as valuable as it solves a what if problem. Okay? All right. And then just like I already said before, when we're entering the what-if phase, which we basically already doing, right? We're in the what-if phase, we have the base technique, which is a regular attacking mace, then we have the option where he's retracting right away, and we're going from the block of attacking mace right into glancing salute, second move of that technique, right? And then we thought we were going to do attacking mace because the target was available, his arm was extended, I'm about to punch him in the ribs, that's when he drops his arm, and I go to circle the horizon. So we got two what-ifs. One what-if is he's retracting immediately after the attack. The second what-if he's retracting a little later, maybe he's seeing me punch. You might say, he feels the check and go, darn it, at least I can drop my arm so you can't punch me in the ribs, right? So we have three options, obviously, right? So the problem is, if you have to do all three, right, I'm going to do the attack, right? So you're blocking, right, and either attacking mace, right, or the glancing salute one, right? I retracted right away, right? So bam, boom, right? Or the one you were going to do right there, I'm retracting a little later after you thought you were going to punch and you hit me there, right? So if you have to work all three right now, it can be difficult, it can be overwhelming again, only because I'm asking you to do two things simultaneously. In a way, three things. First of all, remember all your choices. That's one thing, right? But more importantly, I'm asking you to develop your perceptual speed and your mental speed simultaneously. In other words, noticing which one of the three you have, or noticing which one of these three is coming at you. That's perceptual speed, right? And then figuring out the right solution for each one, the mental speed, right? Matching it to the perception, right? So that's a lot to do simultaneously. And again, that's where a lot of times we fall on our face a little bit, right? Because we're doing too much at the same time. So what we're going to do, just like what you just said earlier, right? We're going to do it in a predictable way so you can work all three options mechanically more, right? So to remind yourself, okay, this is option one, this is option two, this is option three. Again, option one, option two, option three. Again, like that, right? So we're going to do it by doing it in sequence. I'm going to do literally the ideal phase, then the first what if, then the second what if, and we're going to do it a bunch of times. So now you know what's coming at you. So you go 1, 2, 3, and then I got to remember to retract right away on the second one, and I got to also remember to retract a little later on the third one. All right, that's what I got to remember as the attacker. So 1, I punch and leave it there. 2, I punch and retract instantly, so he does glancing salute. 3, I punch and retract a little later, so he does circle the horizon. So let's get that happening, just so that they're very clear in your mind. And that's something even at home, and you guys that are on Zoom, can do easily, right? This is so part of creating mental speed is not being confused. So it is not entirely correct for me to say mental speed does not get worked until we do the formulation phase. But you know what I'm talking about. The spontaneity will not be tested until we get into the formulation phase, because that's when you no longer know what you're going to be doing when you're starting, right? You won't know until it's actually happening. So let's do all three of these in order, totally predictable with a partner, so you can make sure all three choices are mechanically easy for you to do, which also means you're probably learning how to switch from one to the other very quickly, in your mind and with your body. So do it a bunch of times. Do it with a partner.
Yes, sir. Okay, definitely a time.
Just start home.
I've got some cool moves. I was thinking.
That's quite all right.
Okay.
More like that. Uh-huh. Okay, that's good, that's good. All right, so now we're going to totally switch gears, doing the exact same thing though. Let me have Ivan here for a moment. We're actually going to start in, like you already blocked, right? And so first of all, there's less to think about because you're already here, right? So we can lower the gradient or the increment this way, making it simple. So what you're going to do is you have to wait for my stimulus, basically. Right? I'm going to give you something, and that's we're going to work with that. So if I push out, you're in attacking mace, and you punch. Right? If I pull in, you're in obviously in glancing salute. Right? And if I push out, and then you punch, and I come down, then you're in down. Right? So what I want you to do is think of this like sticky fists. Right? So that makes it easier to switch between them because your body is going to tell you what to do.
Are we stepping and chambering back each time though?
No, you're not chambering back at all. You basically, it's like sticky fists, and you're allowed to use 2 hands for it.
Okay.
So we're moving from sticky hands to sticky fists, which means we actually are contemplating the strikes, right? And you are allowed, as a student who's trying to become, or practice in the formulation phase, you are allowed to use both hands in response to what you're feeling. Right? So we can kind of go with like this one number here. I push here. Yeah, actually, I should just leave my arm out because it's mostly like sticky fist. Here, now I go here. I go there again. He does that. Now I go here. And then now I go there again, but I block it. And you go that way. Makes sense? So that's a little bit easier, right? Because you can feel it now. Okay? So we're turning into sticky fist. When we have too many options, that's the way to do it. Because now we can add more to it. Right? I said earlier that we'd work all 6 options and we're really quickly going to get overwhelmed. But that's not usually true for when you keep contact and you go sticky fist. Because what I can do now actually, do it again, stay right there. I'm going to give you another option. It's just I'm going to stay like this and move my body in and just elbow me. So now we got flashing wings in there as well, right? So let's see if that's really difficult for Ivan to do. I'm giving him one option, which is the original. All right, I'm giving him the second option, flashing wings. I'm giving him this, glancing salute. All right, I'm giving him that one, but then I'm blocking that one, circling horizon. All right, so he does work all 4 options. All right, and what if I give him a 5th one? Would that still work with sticky fists? I think it would. The next one is going to be, well, I'm not just doing this now, but I'm kind of really pushing against you right here, and you're going to do the arm break of flashing. There you go, flashing mace. Okay, so let's see if that all works. So one, I just stay here, he punches me. I come too close, he elbows me. I push towards his head, he breaks my arm. All right, I come down, he's in glancing salute. All right, I push here, he punches, I block. He's circling the horizon. Notice I wasn't that high, right? Because you were able to feel it and your body was participating. And just like you were saying earlier, Magda, there's perceptual speed being worked, and the body is faster at noticing that than your mind. When you're looking, your mind and your eyes and your mind are arguing with each other, right? Like when you go fast and you have all these different options, that's hard. So now all of a sudden the body is feeling it, and the body, the muscles that are feeling it are the muscles that are doing it, and so there's no conflict. Okay? So see if that works for you. You can actually take all of these options right now. So let's just start with the 3 that we have.
Same partners or?
No, you should get new partners actually. So right now we're going to go to the 3 options that we had done originally, which are the regular attacking mace. So I have to give him a little pressure this way to do that, right? Or I'm retracting right away and he does glancing salute. Or I'm retracting and let me rephrase that. So we have the regular extended, so he can do attacking mace. Or I can do the retraction, so he does glancing salute. Or I make it look like it's attacking mace. I extend, he punches, I block, and he goes into circling the horizon. So you now get those 3 options. So do that as a sticky hand drill, a sticky fist drill, and see how that works for you. Okay? Go. Oh. Still works. Let's do this one here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think so.
No, just I have different, so if you bring your elbow in right away. And if you extend it out and then kind of come in, right, like if I'm moving the back knuckle and you bring your elbow in. And that's my circling.
This will be fun here.
Palm was glancing and then just the back knuckle was attacking. So it's up here. That's glancing. And then if you can.
Because what's your second strike? Because
Look at you real quick.
Glancing.
no. Because our circling horizon, you wait till you do punch and then you retract.
We didn't do flashing range yet.
On this one, I'm just kind of.
We didn't do that one yet.
From here. If
I
we
felt
go
it.
back,
I felt this go past me. Right. Well, the fact that it made you want to do flashing wings is a really good sign. Right. So that's great. Oh, hey, you! I didn't know we were doing that. You're fine. Yeah, 'cause you hit right there, and I felt.
Yeah.
Oh. You didn't want to move your arm, did you? Oh.
That was my bad.
No, it don't matter. That's all down.
It's very hard to get to yourself.
I was like, what? I'm like, dang, he's making it too easy for it. Remember, your front hand is still continuing to give you all the information that you usually need until you try the punch that gets blocked. That's the only time when your rear hand is actually going to give you information, right? Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, so now, Ivan, go over here for a moment. So I'm going to use him to make an experiment. You got to do all these with your eyes closed. So don't see if I step. Let me show you how the video. We'll go slow because it's my face and my wrist, so we'll go slow. But the point is this: I don't think what we want to do is make sure that we understand that actually our hands are giving us the information that we need. We're reading the motion, right? So when he feels the resistance here, he knows that he has open ribs and he can go right for the punch, right? When he feels that this is happening, he can follow it, and that means he knows my face is open. Right? And when he goes to the other one again, where he feels the ribs are open, and then he feels that they're closed, he knows that the face has just become open again. So you should be able to do it with the eyes closed. So try with the eyes closed. Careful, my face. This is how my face looked before. See how it looked after. So yeah.
Okay. I don't know, maybe he's young, he's in pre-K right now or something.
No problem, huh?
Okay.
Got them all correct, no problem at all. Yes, give him a hand. Well, it gives the purpose for doing that is that it gets you in tune with how our senses are actually operating, right? It's very easy to accidentally go into something that's not natural for us to do. And go like, okay, in midstream, while he's punching, we're going to try to make a decision. That's usually not what you would do, right? You would probably, if the block is not making contact with his arm, it probably becomes some kind of a check or something. Otherwise, I already sent this thing out there, so it's going to do something, right? Right? Makes sense. So just do it with a partner, and it's easier to feel it than it is to understand it mentally. Anyhow, do exactly what I've understood with you. Careful. So let me ask you this. Do you feel that glancing salute is now more useful to you?
Yes,
sir.
Right? Do you feel that circling the horizon is now more useful to you?
Yes, sir.
All right, so it's more valuable because it's answering specific what-if problems, and now you have some idea of when you might use it to solve that problem, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you feel that attacking mace is now becoming a more reliable technique for you?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Right? In other words, you're now able to do it even when your opponent introduces some changes. Right? Now, of course, that's only one or two changes so far, so we would have to do many, many more what-ifs, right? The good news is that the what-if problems in one technique often are solved the same way as a similar what-if problem in another technique, right? So you didn't just improve attacking mace. You improved almost any technique when you're on the outside of your arm having to check, right? So this could have been flashing mace, it could have been flashing wings, it could have been thundering hammers, a sleeper, all kinds of different techniques, and all of a sudden, oh, you retracted. Well, okay, I'm glad I know circling the horizon, right?
Family groupings.
I'm sorry?
Like you said the other day, family groupings now.
Yes.
Every time.
Yes, exactly, right? So by the time you do that, with this whole process, let's say we would go through all of attacking mace with all the likely what-ifs. That would take quite a bit of time, but the good news is you're solving probably 30% of all the rest of the techniques problems too. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So what are the three different training phases then?
Ideal, formulation, what if?
Very good. Except the order should be
Ideal, what if, formulation.
exactly. Ideal, what if, and formulation. So that's the three-phase concept. So if somebody ever asks you in Kenpo, what is the three-phase concept? Well, it is the idea of practicing in three different phases. Three different ways of practicing. Ideal, what if, formulation. So everybody down your horse, that's all right?
Yeah, it's a Filipino style.
Whoa! You just have the hand. Welcome. Thank you for trying hard.
What time is it?
2:30.
2:30. Sir. Why did I thinking that we were going to pre-select?